Blog Talk Radio.
Well, here we go, boys and girls, across this great country. Coronavirus still having a grip on everybody. The looting in Los Angeles has stopped. I'll tell you one thing, nobody has a grip unless the guy that's hosting it is pulling the strings. Peter Ray, live from Cleveland, Ohio. This is the American Sports History Podcast. Mark Mancini producing it right here. Yours truly, 347-205-9631. And as I give it over to you, Peter, I'll tell you, as I look around the Stables Network going on live in New York right now with the Burrows in New York podcast, hosted by Michael Oso, Bill Savarese, and Alan Wu, Johnny Damon over there. At the bottom of this hour, top of the next hour, it'll be the Philadelphia show. Mike Paternoster will be running it. And your guest tonight is going to be opening up a great show this Saturday. I'll let you introduce it. First of all, how are you, my friend? Second of all, how can people get a hold of you?
Oh, hi, Mark. I'm fine. I'm doing well. I have a YouTube channel, and the channel name is my name, Peter J. Ray, R-E-A. I also have a website, Adventures in History with Peter J. Ray, and I make history videos, including Cleveland baseball. A lot of videos there. Now tonight's guest is Kayla J. Bradham. Is that the right pronunciation? Bradham?
Yes, it is. Hi, good evening.
Hi, Kayla. Kayla's going to host a show on this wonderful Primetime with the Stables Sports Podcast Network with Mark Mancini Saturday. She is God-driven, and she's doing all kinds of wonderful work. She works with pro athletes after they retire, helping them with that adjustment. She's vice president of Sports Philanthropy Network. She's the mother of 8 children. Wow, incredible. A high school English teacher. Gosh. And she's also an execution coach and works with entrepreneurs. So welcome to the show, Kayla. What would you like to talk about?
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you so much, Peter. I loved your story and learning a little bit more about you. And I guess I would just start by saying that, in my opinion, the whole point of history is his story, his meaning the creators. And, he gives each of us a story. And with your love of history, I'm just curious, Peter, if you'd share with us what your story is. How did you become inspired to study sports history?
I was born in 1960 and grew up in Rocky River, Ohio. I was in a really good family. I was the youngest of 4 children, and my parents were really good people, very kind, very peaceful. My older sister died when I was 11 years old. She got sick and died, and it was very heartbreaking for my parents. But they were good people. They were church-going people. They prayed, and they became better people from that. And they were looking to help. There's a lot of suffering in the world, and they were looking to help others who had suffered. And anyway, when I was, I had an easy childhood. I'd say I was very loved back in the '60s, but life can't be easy forever. It's not supposed to be, I don't think. And anyway, my life became hard when I was started junior high. I found it very, very tough. I was very intimidated by it, and I became depressed. And anyway. Friend of mine and his father, we went to a Cleveland Indians baseball game. I had not been a sports fan up until that time particularly, and we went to the last 2 games of the 1972 season at Cleveland Municipal Stadium, and we were right behind home plate, just to the left of the foul screen, and I made this decision to become I became a diehard Cleveland sports fan. It became everything to me. I became obsessed with it. And anyway, my dad, like I said, I had a wonderful father, and we had such good times that we went to a lot of – I remember he'd come home. He worked downtown Cleveland. He'd come home from work, and he never said no if I said, hey, Dad, let's go to a game. And he'd say, okay, and we'd get in the car, and he'd head back downtown. Cleveland Municipal Stadium. And we parked there, and there was a small lot. We parked in and walked down West 3rd Street, which led to Gate A, and that stadium's gone. It's now First Energy Stadium. Anyway, we'd go into Gate A. My dad always would get upper deck seats between home and first. And the ticket prices were very minimal, like $3, something like that. And he always said, "Yeah, that's the best place to get a foul ball, upper deck between home and first." And he'd get a scorecard and a pencil, and he'd keep score. He'd have a cigar in his pocket. We'd get a hot dog and Coke, and we'd head to our seats and watch the game. It was all pretty simple. Oregon music, not many people there. The Indians weren't a good team, but anyway, I had wonderful memories of and another one of my favorite memories with my dad was raking leaves on Sunday. We had a big yard, and raking leaves on Sunday afternoons and listening to Cleveland Browns games on a transistor radio. We'd move the radio around the yard, and it was just that was fun because it was nice being outside, and we were getting something done, raking leaves, and listening to the Browns on the radio. So, and the thing is, I always wanted, if you're a fan, you want your team to win a championship, and it didn't. And I always wanted for Cleveland to win a championship and experience it with my father. Probably watching on TV, but that was fine. And then my father died in 2011. He was 87. I was 51. So he lived his life. And Cleveland hadn't won a title, and I thought, oh well, I'm not going to be able to have that experience. And actually, backing up a little bit, 1997. I remember when the Indians lost the '97 World Series. I was in the Philippines. I got a letter from my father, and he said, the Indians came within a whisker of winning the World Series, and I thought it was such a wonderful attitude. He had this beautiful way of looking at it. Anyway, he died, and then 2016, the Cavs won. I remember when the Cavs won the finals, and I was watching the game with my friend Brent Lestheim, who's like my brother, and it was funny because when the game ended, I didn't believe it. I just stared at the TV. I didn't jump up. I didn't sing. I just stared for about a minute at the TV watching the celebration. And finally tears started coming down my cheeks. And I thought of my dad, and I thought, we're together, because I think when people die, you can still, they're here, actually, if you think about them, because I think heaven actually is here, and angels are here, and so I thought, I still had that experience with my dad, so I was real happy about that, and anyway, so that's kind of my. And the funny thing is, when the Cavs won the NBA title, Mike Breen, the announcer, said, "Cleveland, it's over, it's over. Cleveland is a city of champions once again." And see, I'd had this project where I was promoting the slogan "Cleveland City of Champions" based on forgotten championships going way back to the 1895 Cleveland Spiders in baseball, and the NFL, the 24 Bulldogs and 45 Rams, and the Browns from 46 to 55 played in 10 championship games, won 7, and these have been forgotten since people aren't historical. And so anyway, he said that slogan, and I was real happy about it. So anyway, that's the story. Kayla?
I think that's pretty awesome. I want to ask you a question. You said on that day, at that moment, you became a diehard Cleveland Indians sports fan. As a mom, I just got to ask, did you have any collections? Were you collecting the ticket stubs or the balls and getting signatures, or were you trading cards at school? Did you have a thing, Peter?
Oh, I've been obsessed with baseball cards. In fact, I have cards out right now. I'm looking at them, and I have them in like stacks of about 30 or 40, and every day I turn them over. I'm looking at some right here I got from. Yeah, that was fun. Baseball cards. That's a wonder. And I was in the Philippines for 20 years. I had a baseball program with kids, my son, a bunch of kids, and I used to buy baseball cards in the U.S. and bring them back to the Philippines and give them to kids. And so, yeah, baseball cards are fun, basketball cards, that type of thing. It's all fun. Football cards, it's fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. I have to ask, the best card you own is?
I had a lot of cards stolen, but anyway, that's fine. Doesn't mean anything. That's what's great about Wikipedia. You can see cards online. So I can't say I had it was stolen, but it's okay. I had a 68 Mickey Mantle. I had actually a Duke Snider with the Mets in 62. I had Willie Mays from the 73, and Henry Aaron, and I had all those guys.
Well, as a Brewers girl here in Milwaukee, I got to tell you, that Henry Aaron card is a golden dollar to me. So if you were giving advice, Peter, to, let's assume that there's some young people listening to podcasts. It's the cool hip thing. It's definitely the platform that most younger people are using right now. Any advice you'd give them on starting a nice collection that they can pass down to their kids someday?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess you can buy. I mean, if you're a fan today, you can buy a box of cards. That they sell it from Topps. You can go online and get if you want to get into a collection of more older card. They have actually since the 80s. There's been a lot. You can get a lot of cards for very little online. If you want to get older cards, if you get into history. So, no, that's about all I know about that.
Okay. All right. So I loved your story about you and your dad, and I honestly also really enjoyed your transparency and your vulnerability in sharing about your sister and her death. So I just want to thank you for that. I guess, with your love for history, I'm just wondering, did any of that impact your desire to sort of become a historian?
Well, I mean, I was in high school. I had a history teacher who inspired me, and I thought, oh my God, this is so fascinating. So I was a history major in college, and now the thing about being a sports historian, that's a funny story because I was a fan, and actually I think there's a lot of negative thinking among fans. And in Cleveland, you'd hear the same thing over and over. Oh, the Indians haven't won a World Series since 1948. The Browns haven't won since '64. Cavs have never won. And then they would relish these things like the drive, the fumble, and all that stuff. And anyway, I was being in the Philippines years ago, and we didn't have cable TV. And in 1998, I was visiting, and I couldn't follow Cleveland teams very well in the Philippines. So my dad would send me Cleveland Plain Dealer sports sections, which was really nice of him. And anyway, one year I was visiting, '98, and I happened to go to a bookstore, and this was when the Browns had left, and they didn't get the new team yet. And so I ended up spending $100 on books on various Cleveland sports. Took them back to the Philippines, and then all of a sudden I learned all this stuff that I didn't know. And then one of my biggest regrets in life, I was at Cleveland Airport, 1999, I believe, when the Browns restarted again with an expansion team. And there was a guy behind me, and I said, in a bookstore, I was in a gift store, and I said, "Are you Otto Graham?" I remember my dad mentioning that name, and he looked at me and smiled, and he said, "I used to be." And so it was Otto Graham. And then
Wow.
And the thing is, I didn't know much. I didn't know history then. I didn't know that Otto Graham had played from 1946 to 1955 for the Cleveland Browns, their first 10 years of existence, first 4 years in the All-American Football Conference, or AAFC, and then the next 6 years when they joined the NFL. And every year of his career and every year of the Browns' first 10 years, they played in the championship game every year and won 7. And I didn't know. And later when I thought, oh, my God, I met this guy who had this incredible career. And he's almost completely forgotten. And I thought, what a shame that I could have talked to him and said, my God, thank you for what you've done. So anyway, the point I'm trying to make is I learned all this stuff. 1895 Cleveland Spiders. I thought, oh my God, this is so cool. First pro basketball dynasty was the Cleveland Rosenblums, 1926, 29, and 30. All this forgotten history. There was a book called Forgotten Glory by Gene Kichek, who wrote about the Cleveland Barons in hockey, who had won all these championships years ago. So anyway, I thought this made me feel good because I thought, you're a fan, you want to win championships. So I was discovering forgotten championships, and it made me feel happy.
That's awesome. What a story. My goodness. I love it. But, I got to ask, and I think I'm asking not only on behalf of myself, but also all of your listeners. Peter, how'd you end up in the Philippines?
That's a good question. I was interested in all the countries of the world and the peoples of the world, Africa, Europe, Asia, South America, and I ended up getting pen pals all over the world a lot. Like I said, Europe, Africa, Asia, and I had the Soviet Union back then, and one of my pen pals was a young lady in the Philippines. named Alice Garcia, and we fell in love. We were back in 1987. I was writing, and anyway, I visited her in 1990. She had a school. She owned her family owned a small high school. I was starting my teaching career. I had taught for 2 years in Switzerland. Anyway, we decided to get married, but she couldn't leave the Philippines. She had the school. She was taking care of her parents. She had a mentally ill sister, and so anyway, I moved to the Philippines because of and she's a wonderful person.
What a story. How romantic and beautiful. This says a lot about you and your character. So I'm sure you gleaned a lot of wisdom while you were there. As far as sports and culture goes, how would you compare sports in the Philippines to sports here in the United States, Peter?
Filipinos are their favorite sport. They are obsessed with basketball. In fact, I think the NBA is more popular there than here. And there are short people. They love the NBA, and so I mean, they actually have Manny Pacquiao. If you've heard of him, he's a boxing champion. But basketball is the number one sport. And I got involved with a bunch of kids in this. I had this program, and we would play. We played baseball for a while, but we had to stop because we didn't really have enough room. And I played a ton of basketball in the Philippines with these kids. And it was fun during the summer. Summer in the Philippines is from middle of March to early June, and then so that's the NBA playoffs. So I go to this park with these, and we were playing basketball, and I played, and they were growing up, and I used to give away NBA cards to kids, and then we would talk about the playoffs. One of the kids was a Lakers fan, other kid was a Pacers fan, Spurs fan. So Filipinos love that. They love the NBA.
All right, so I'm gathering the Philippines NBA, and it sounds like it's quite possible that baseball might be your piece of pie with the whipped cream on the top. Is baseball your favorite sport?
Oh yeah. It's
without a doubt.
Oh yeah, it's deeply rooted in the American psyche, and we had Ty Cobb's granddaughter, Cindy Cobb, recently, and baseball, man, it's summer, summertime. It's this beautiful game, the diamond, and it represents when you're a kid. It's summer. Cleveland is cold most of the year, but summer is the wonderful time, and baseball, being outside. I mean, and we're married. I love the scene in the movie. With that gal says, "Is this not America? Is baseball not America's favorite pastime?" I can't remember the name of the movie. It was a Kevin Costner movie, but yeah, baseball. Hey.
Yeah. Well, and from what it sounds like to me, a lot of that comes back to the memories you shared with your father. Is that correct?
Yeah, and sure. I mean, my dad, good guy. I remember he was my little league manager. I remember I was a terrible player, but he was. Yeah, I mean, baseball. I mean, I remember I was a horrible player. I always wanted to be a great player. I was terrible, but I remember going up to home plate, knowing I was going to strike out every time. But I kept with it, and one of my big thrills in life was 1996. I was in Guam. I tried out for the Guam Olympic baseball team at age 36, and I felt I got cut in the first cut, but I felt I did fairly well. I hit some fly balls to the outfield. In fact, in my greatest moment in I had three great moments in baseball playing. I ran into the left field fence, knocked myself out in Little League, and then I was a few years older, maybe 4. I hit a fly ball to left field that was caught that I felt very proud of, and then playing softball as an adult, I got knocked out at home plate by a guy coming in from third. But anyway, so that's those are some stories.
It sounds like you have some good memories. Now, I just got to ask, in light of, baseball being shut down and a little bit or maybe quite a bit of uncertainty about when it's going to open back up again, you know what it's like to be a kid, loving to go to the ball games with your dad. What's your advice for dads out there with children right now in light of lack of sports, to say that kindly?
Well, the thing is, I'm interested. There's, this is an opportunity to get into sports history, And there's tons of videos in last 50 years really. The farther back you go, there's just tons of books, and I think obviously you can hopefully you can go and play with your kids somewhere and find a park to play the game, and there's TV. They're replaying a lot. In fact, online they were playing. They're playing old, like the 75 Red Sox, 75 World Series, which I think was such a cool World Series. So there's a lot of, you can watch these. And to me, the history, if you just follow the game today, it's kind of, I find it very tedious and boring. But if you get into the history of sports, you got all the World Series, you got all the Super Bowls, you got all, and then the pre-Super Bowl NFL championship games. All the guys, there's so many amazing stories and all these guys. If you get into that, to me, you're going to really, that's a lot more enjoyable than just the game today. We can, losing sports today, what we can do is we can gain history that we don't. And there's tons of there's tons of baseball books and that you can read, and so yeah, you can get into history. You can watch old World Series, Super Bowls, stuff like that.
Let's make it easy for your listeners, Peter. Dad's trying to find a good game to show his 8-year-old son and really instill in him the love of the game. What World Series game are you telling Dad to put on for his son?
Game 7 or Game 6 of the 75 World Series. To me, the 72, 73, 74 Oakland A's. To me, those were the coolest guys in the world. I mean, I love Catfish Hunter, Reggie Jackson, and Raleigh Fingers, the guy that you fell in love with as a girl. And the 82 World Series. That was the 82 Brew Crew. Man, those guys. We had Gorman Thomas for a year in Cleveland, and that was and they had Sal Bando at third. Fingers was the closer, and yeah, Raleigh Fingers, coolest relief pitcher of all time. And, I was just thinking about in Cleveland, we had Dave LaRoche, who I just loved that guy, because the closer is the guy who ends up, who closes it down. You win the game with that guy.
Yeah,
Raleigh Fingers.
I got to be honest, man, that 82, between Robin Yount, Cecil Cooper, Raleigh Fingers, I mean, that's my crew. I got to hold it down for Milwaukee and say that's my crew. Time flies on this podcast. It's just so interesting to hear you talk. And, boy, you blink an eye and you miss it. So I got to ask, Peter, you're passionate about history, especially sports history. For anybody, these young guys, and I'm asking this as a high school language arts teacher, if any of my students were interested in going into sports history, what are the things they should study? What opportunities are out there for them? What could they do to be more involved?
I don't know, except that I don't know about opportunities, but I mean, I don't know in terms of making a living, but there's some, actually, well, one of the things you could do is contact former players, study sports, study athletes from the past, and look for a guy that there hasn't been a book written about, because there's tons of them out there. And then make your decision, and then contact that guy. And he'd probably be delighted to have somebody write a book about his life. So dead men tell no tales. So that's the thing, is to talk to people while they're alive. So especially guys who are getting, the best ones would be ones that are a little bit older. They have time on their hands, and they have more wisdom. And yeah, I mean, you could write up if you do a good job. I mean, there's a market. There's a real market there's tons of sports books that have been written, more and more all the time.
That's awesome. So, gotta ask, if you could promote one product for baseball, what is the one product that you could not live without? What would you love to make a commercial for?
I can't think of anything. Well, I don't know what you. I don't know. What do you?
I'm just wondering if you have a favorite glove, a favorite bat.
I think baseball cards. I remember. In fact, there's a guy I grew up with, and he gave. I remember very well. He gave. I got my first baseball card from him. I was probably 6 years old. He gave me a Matty Alou Pirates card, and And I thought, oh, and, when you're 6 years old and a big kid gives you a baseball card, and you think, wow, this is what big kids are into. And so to me, baseball cards are just wonderful. They're beautiful. There's the movies that have been made, like League of Their Own, For Love of the Game, the Major League, promote the wonderful baseball movies that have been made, or sports movies. And books. Like I said, there's these. I'm interested in getting people interested in books because I think there's so many amazing, not just in sports, but in history in general. So many. So yeah, I'd be interested in promoting things like that.
Well, I really appreciate it. I got to say, like I said, this podcast goes quick. You speak fast, and it's so informative. We're down to the last final minutes. I think it's my turn to turn the mic back over to you to say thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity to interview a man with so much wisdom and history and knowledge, and what a beautiful opportunity that is for me. I'm very, very grateful. As I turn it back over to you, Peter, I'll let you share your final thoughts with your listening audience.
Well, thank you so much for your kind words. You remember we talked yesterday, and you wanted to talk about me tonight. I thought, wow, this is an amazing person. I appreciate that. When the Indians lost I'll tell you, the 1997 World Series, I was in the Philippines. It's 12-hour time delay, and the game started at 9 a.m. in Cleveland, and I figured, and during the game, I was praying and meditating. I practice yoga meditation. My church's Self-Realization Fellowship. The leader is Paramahansa Yogananda. Anyway, I was praying and meditating during the game. That we didn't have it on TV, and then it was I figured around noon. I thought the game's probably over, and I was expecting a phone call from my father or my brother, and neither called, and I was puzzled because I was convinced that they were going to win, and they did win. Anyway, the game was actually on tape delay, and I started watching. I think it was like 4 o'clock. It was on. Now the game was over. We had lost, but I didn't know. Anyway, I watched the game, and I remember. We had the lead in the ninth. We lost it, I think, in 11 innings. You lost it in extra innings, and I remember the line drive up center and over Charlie Nagy's head into center by Edgar Renteria scored Craig Counsell from third. And I remember my wife she said, "Are you okay?" I was just like sitting there like a zombie. Anyway. It was a very, very painful experience, very, very painful, but it was one of the best things that ever happened to me because I think the most important thing in life is our spiritual path. We are loved. We were created by a wonderful being. You can call him God, Heavenly Father, Divine. I like to call God Divine Mother. That's the most important reality in life. We were created by God, and that we are all brothers and sisters, and that we need to find a spiritual path if we don't have it, and follow it, and be kind. Be good to each other, love God and love each other. So actually, the Indians losing the '97 World Series was one of the best things that ever happened to me.
That's a great story. What an inspiration. What an inspiration. Well, I want to say thank you very much for having me. I look forward to opening up a Legacy After the Locker Room next Saturday here on the network and coming into the stables with Mark Mancini and that crew. Thank you so much, Peter.
Yeah, we've got a little bit of time here, so let's see. Another thing I'll tell you is there's a book. It's called The Chicken Runs at Midnight, I believe, and apparently a wonderful book because there was a story in Florida about a guy and his family, and the third base coach for the Marlins. He had a daughter who died, I think, of leukemia or cancer, but before she was a good person, real good person. Before she died, she came up with a slogan: "The chicken runs at midnight," and people, the family thought it was kind of a funny thing. And then they said, and then when Craig Counsell scored, his nickname was the Chicken. And then this third base coach looked at the clock. It was midnight, so he felt that it was his daughter speaking to him from heaven. And I thought, what a wonderful story. I think losing the '97 World Series was great for us, was great for the Cuban Americans who had suffered so much by being separated from their families because of Fidel Castro's communist government, where they couldn't travel back and forth. So, we should always look for the good in life. And anyway, so yeah, we got about a minute here. So Kayla, thank you so much for your wonderful questions and your interest in my life. And I can tell you, I'm really in awe of all the things that you're doing there. So keep up. God bless you, and keep up the good work.
Thank you so much. I look forward to meeting your audience. They can reach out to me on LinkedIn at Kayla Bradham with over 28,000 connections. I'd love to meet the people who are listening to you.
Right, very good. So we're going to wrap things up. It's the bottom of the hour. It's time to say goodnight, and I'd like to quote the tremendous Cleveland Cavaliers and Indians broadcaster for a time, Joe Tate, and say to all our faithful, wonderful listeners out there, have a good night, everybody.